Today I'm going to show you how to do an informal response to this prompt on your bookmark. How the author writes, what is the tone of the text? Write out passages that demonstrate this tone to help support your thinking. I just finished reading Standoff by Andrew Smith, which is fantastic. It's the sequel to Winger, and the main character's name is Ryan Dean West. And there's so many fantastic writing techniques in this book, but I wanted to focus on one. So I took out my notebook and I wrote down informal response to the prompt, how the author writes. I put the title of the book, the author, and the page from which I took the excerpt. I didn't take the entire excerpt because it was really, really long, but what I put in here gives you an idea of what you should do in your own informal response to this prompt. So the quote says, okay, so you know how sometimes you arrive late to a party, or let's say to rugby practice, and you see two of the guests, or in this case, two of your teammates, involved in a heated confrontation that you can't really hear, but you know is heated because of the way they're standing and how the veins in their neck, and then it goes on. And then at the end, it says, exactly. You know where I'm coming from. Anyone who reads either Winger or Standoff, the sequel to Winger by Andrew Smith, is going to absolutely fall in love with the main character, Ryan Dean West. I don't mean romantically. I mean you're going to love the way he is characterized by the author. Most readers will be able to identify with how awkward, yet alarmingly cool he is. And that is because of how the author's writing style develops Ryan Dean's character. Andrew Smith does this in many ways, but one is by using the technique I wrote out at the beginning. The author has Ryan Dean bring the reader in by saying, okay, so you know how, and the reader thinks they're going to be able to relate to a familiar situation that we've all experienced, then continues by describing a situation that is neither familiar or something any reader might have experienced. It is, in fact, incredibly specific and not at all relatable to the reader. What's effective for the reader is the way that this technique is repeated throughout the novel to emphasize that Ryan Dean truly has no idea that other people's lives are not exactly like his. The author uses this technique to repeatedly demonstrate that Ryan Dean gets 0 points for self-awareness. I think you guys are about to meet my cat. She just sniffed the book. The reader can predict when Ryan Dean is about to experience a moment that demonstrates his lack of self-awareness, because the author always sets it up the same way by using, okay, so you know how, and ending with, you know what I mean. What's also useful with the author's use of this technique is that the scenario is written as one long sentence, often taking up a whole page of text. This is how teenagers and adults talk. They don't stop to punctuate. They just sort of ramble on as if just as if everyone knows what they're talking about. All in all, the author's style really helps the reader develop an understanding of who Ryan Dean is by writing this way. Okay, so I'm going to flat out admit that this informal response is a little long, but I needed to describe myself properly. So I just want to go through what it was I did. One, I wrote the type, I wrote the prompt of what it was I was doing an informal response to, which is something you should do in your notebook, right? So that I know what you're doing. You should write the title of the book and the author and the page number that you're excerpting it from. You can start with the passage. I did. You can also do that. Or if you want to integrate it into your informal response, you can also. Then I set up why it is that this technique is going to work and what it does for the reader. I explained how the author brings the reader in and why this works. And I also showed that the author uses this technique more than once. In fact, he uses it in both of his, both Winger and Standoff. And then I just ended with how the author's style helps reinforce the experience for the reader, which is something you can do also. Hope this is helpful.